I'm ready to start another project. I have a parallel clamp that I designed myself, and I made 3 of these. I'm going to make a couple of more, and I think it's going to be great content for YouTube. And the other reason is I have some offcuts from some logs. I call them cheeks. There's a lot of bark on them. There's really not much I can do with them, and I don't have the heart to throw all this out. This has all been milled by hand, literally by hand with hand saws, and also it's been dried indoors. There's just not a whole lot that I can do with it. So I'm gonna square up these things and glue it up and make the faces for 2. I believe I can get at least 1, if not 2 clamps. I think I could get 1, so I'll have a total of 4. I made 3 already. So that's what's going to happen with all this. I just wanted to film what all this looks like. It's all very awkwardly shaped. Rather than throw it out, I want to make something with it. I'm going to try and get the handles out of this piece. So that's the beginning of my homemade clamp project. I got a lot of work to do to square all this up, glue it, re-square the pieces that are laid up, but this is the beginning segment for homemade clamp project. Alright, it's within 3 thousandths. So I got the handles cut to length, and I'm going to start doing the boring work for the threaded rods and for the T-nuts. So what I do is I bore, this is milled to 1.25 inches, so I bore an 1.25 inch spade bit into a board, and I wait until the tip just comes through the back, and then from the other direction I drill a 1-inch hole and a 1/2 inch hole, and that hole I will use as the guide for the drill bits, and they'll all be on center on this material. So the way this works, I got to do the largest holes first, so I maintain the center. So this will go in here like this. So now I'll bore the 1/2 inch hole, which is the counter bore for the T-nut and the path that the threaded rod is going to take through the handle. Alright. We got a hole all the way through. So now the next step is to press the T-nuts into the end. And I think the last time I did that was with a clamp. Okay. It's in there nice and snug. Looks good. Okay, so I got some threaded rod cut, and to get a 6-inch opening in the clamps you need about an 18-inch piece of threaded rod. So the first handle I'm going to do has a nut. Let's see, it's going to be this handle, which I call the back handle. So it's this one. It's got a nut over here. It's got a nylon lock nut on the back. So I'm going to make that up right now. So I double nutted the back just so I could grab it with some channel locks and then get the threading started on this other end. Okay, and then on the back of the handle goes the lock nut. Okay, this is all locked together now. It's all one unit. And this is what I call the rear handle. Alright, so let's take a quick look at the clamp that I have fabricated. I call this the rear handle because I'm a righty, and this is the one that I would hold in my right hand. So for all intents and purposes, this is the rear handle, and this is the rear jaw for the clamp. So that everyone will know what I'm referring to because now I have the new ones fabricated. So these were all laid up, machined, squared up, re-squared. The only thing I haven't done is sanded them. So there's some bores in this one. So this jaw is what I would call the opposite of the rear. This would be the front jaw. So the handle that I hold in my right hand passes all the way through here. And that's the handle that I just fabricated. So that's going to go through here, and the handle is going to ride right up against the face of the clamp. And the pressure on this jaw is going to be this way. That's where the pressure is going to accumulate on this side of the jaw. So there's nothing more that you have to do about that. Now on my first one, I think I was able to bore a 7/16 hole. This one's a 1/2 inch. This needs to slide through here and pass freely. So this might work out better than the 7/16 hole, because sometimes the threads will grab and then the jaw will want to climb on the threads rather than just slide freely through it. So now the other side of the jaw has 2 bores. One is an 1.5 inch bore, which is very shallow, and it's made for an 1.5 inch washer to fit right in there like that and be flush. And then there's a counter bore in there, and that's made to receive 2 1-inch washers. I could put them right back in the bottom of the hole right now. Let's see. It's a little bit of a... Okay, now the reason there's 2 washers in the bottom of this hole is because in the threaded rod that comes from the other direction into this jaw, there's going to be a rod cap, and that cap is going to put pressure against those 2 washers, and that's where they're going to meet. The reason you want that is because you don't want wear in the bottom of that hole, and you don't want the clamping pressure will drive that cap nut and drive it through the jaw and split this. So that's going to be the bearing surface for the top of the cap. So I have the washers already set up. There's holes bored in them, and then countersinks for I think it's a number 6 screw. So I already ran the screws through there. So now this one is ready to receive. Now I have what I would call the rear jaw. So the rear jaw has to be able to receive a T-nut here, which is going to be pulled, and that's going to, of course, adjust the face of the clamp. And then on the rear of the clamp, you're going to have another T-nut, but that's going to be pushed, I believe. Let's see, we'll get into that. Is that going to be? Yeah. That's going to be pushed, but outwards. So let's see. This one needs a T-nut pressed into it. That looks good. Okay, so let's see. This one can be permanently installed. And let's see, this one Okay. Let's see what else we got now. Okay. So now let's see. This one will be what I call the front handle. So this will pass all the way through here like this. Okay, now on this side, to protect you from this threaded rod, I'm going to put the cap. But because I don't want it to ever come loose and become a problem, I'm going to use Teflon tape to lock it up. Okay. Oh. Time for a new camera. Send your donations to the Rough Cut Camera Fund. Okay. Now on this one's a little trickier. So now this one has to go through here and then through this T-nut like that. Now you need the washer in place. Then you need the other cap. Where is that cap? So this one is going to be captured underneath the washer, and you're never going to see this, but you really don't want this to spin. This one you definitely want locked up, because if it gets loose it might bind in there, and then you'll just have to disassemble everything and take it apart, and you'll have to lock it up again anyway. So just pays to do it now. So on these threaded rods, this is not a coarse thread. So you're going to have to do quite a bit of spinning to move the clamp the same amount that you normally would, that you're used to with the old-fashioned name brand clamps. That much I can tell you. But these are really nice clamps. So I made 3 of these about 6 or 7 years ago, and they have really served me well. In fact, I use those clamps along with my store-bought clamps to make these, to lay these up. So now what has to happen is the washer is stacked above the nut, and now you have to reach in here with a screwdriver and then just permanently install this. So that cap nut is just going to float around, trapped in this little area created by all these washers. Let's see. Alright, let's see how they look. Let me grab something with them. Nice. That's what you want. These are beasts. These are going to work real well. I'm going to wrap this segment up. Everything is looking good. On my previous versions of this clamp, I made them out of spalted maple. So the color is a little bit darker, and these have been finished with Thompson's water seal. I sealed them a number of times over the years. They're about 6 or 7 years old. Thompson's water seal works real good. It's not a heavy finish, but it does repel the glue and the grime from your hands and stuff like that. So that's what I'll be doing to these at some point. Probably breaking the edges and sanding them and stuff. The other modification I'm going to do to these, it's not a major modification, but I'm going to install some T-nuts in here and then be able to bolt them from the bench from underneath. This way when I flatten my blanks from my hand planes and my molding planes and stuff like that, some of them aren't very thick and they'll be clamped in here, and then I'll be able to pass all the planes over it without having the big C-clamps in the way, so I don't hit the plane, damage the plane, and also damage my hands. So I'll be doing that at some point in time, but otherwise these are real good clamps. I like them because they're handmade, and they do work really, really well. I haven't had any problems with them. You just have to be aware that if you're used to the store-bought ones, they have coarse threads in their threaded rods. So as you're twisting them, those jaws move quickly. These are fine threads, so they're going to move much more slowly. But the clamping force that they provide is the same. And what I also like about having the homemade clamps is when you make something with them, you're adding an inherent quality into them because you're using handmade tools to make your handmade furniture and so on and so forth. And I think that's really the essence of woodworking. So this is a simple design. I scavenged the threaded rods, and the hardware only costs probably in the range of like $6 or $7, maybe even less for all this stuff. And then the big pain in the neck is probably milling the handles, and you can come up with your own way of doing that. The way I did it was really time consuming. It was a pain in the neck, but it got the job done. So there you go. Homemade clamps, homemade parallel clamps. They do the job, and they're going to do the job for you. Everybody, you know what to do. Stay strong. We got a lot more stuff to do coming up. Stay tuned.